There's a lot of talk these days about the concept of flow, but most of the conversation is around psychological flow, where our mind and body are connected as one. We're in the flow state. We talk about athletes who are calm and focused and really absorbed into their sport as being in the flow. We talk about artists who are in the flow of inspiration. They're totally immersed in what they're doing, and the art just seems to flow through them without effort. But there's not a lot of conversation about divine flow. Divine flow, I believe, goes beyond just the psychological flow. It incorporates it, but it's a step further. Divine flow is that amazing experience where the mind, the body, the emotions, and the spirit work together as one. They're a team, they're connected. It's heart-based because our souls live within our hearts. I like to define flow as being one with the divine spirit who opens our hearts, allowing us to experience inner peace, balance, and wholeness. The question is, how do we enter into and sustain divine flow? I believe the answer is that we look to the spiritual teachers and heroes, the ancient ones and the contemporary ones who seem to have experienced that connection between the human and divine parts of them. And it seems like those individuals, people like St. Benedict, St. Francis, Julian of Norwich, Mother Teresa, Gandhi, Thomas Merton, Henry Nouwen, those spiritual teachers had four common lifestyle practices that they incorporated into their lives. And I called those the finding flow practices. And here's what they are. First, they entered into quiet time every day, into solitude. They got away from the noise and distractions of the world to enter into the silence for 20, 30 minutes, an hour, a day, whatever it was, however much time that they had in that day to recenter themselves in their inner self, to connect again with the divine spirit, to strengthen their awareness of God's presence in their life. And in that quiet time, they experienced who they were in God. They connected their human and divine spirits. They essentially found the umbilical cord between themselves and God so that they could gain wisdom and insight into how they should be living their lives that day and for the rest of their lives. And they also gained affirmation, the divine embrace of love by the Spirit of God within them. They also engaged in spiritual reading as a second practice. They read the books and writings and sacred scriptures of those who had gone before them so they could gain the insight and knowledge and wisdom from those that had journeyed on the spiritual path before them or were on the spiritual path, but maybe a little step further than them. They surrounded themselves with a community of people that nudged them to grow and helped them affirm and know who they were. I call it an inner circle of trust, a small group of maybe 4 to 5 people or more who basically helped them mirror back to them who they were, affirmed that they were on the right path, or when they were off the track, also mirrored back to them that maybe they needed to do something different to get back on track. And the last thing that they engaged in as a spiritual practice was they understood their spiritual gifts. They went from the contemplative part of their day through the solitude and the reading part of the day into the active part of the day, using their spiritual gifts, what I call contemplative action in the day, to basically come alive, to make the world a better place. And when they used their spiritual gifts, they experienced joy, they experienced happiness. And the most important thing is they help the world become a better place because of them using their gifts in the world. When we follow in these 4 spiritual practices that our spiritual teachers and heroes seem to have modeled for us, what we experience is the presence of God. We reclaim inner peace, balance, and wholeness. And just like we have to exercise our bodies on a daily basis, either through walking or going to the gym or yoga or whatever it is to maintain a healthy body, we also need to engage in spiritual exercises, spiritual practices that exercise our souls, that strengthen the spiritual muscles within us and stretch us and help us grow. But I think what happens is when we experience these 4 spiritual finding flow practices, What we do is we get into the flow of a relationship with the Creator. Just like we have a relationship with our loved ones, the relationship, the unique relationship that we have with God as we understand God begins to really grow and strengthen. We begin to hear God's voice within our hearts and souls. We know that God's got our backs, and we're in that divine flow of following the pathway that wisdom and love are guiding us. I invite you to try these 4 Finding Flow spiritual practices for the next week to 10 days on a daily basis. Enter into quiet time for 20 to 30 minutes every day. Pick up a spiritual book, find a spiritual teacher whose books that really speak to you, and read maybe 30 minutes a day. Surround yourself with a community of people, a handful of people. Could be a spiritual mentor, could be a spiritual friend, a spouse, a life partner, people that nudge you to grow, and lean into them to help you expand and grow into your best self. And then also maybe take a spiritual gifts inventory. There's one on my website, and there's other ones available on the internet for free. And discover what your spiritual gifts are so that you can come alive. You can discover your purpose in this season of your life and make the world a better place. So try those practices next week to 10 days, and then look back over your shoulder and determine, have I grown a little bit more? Is my relationship with God strengthened a little bit more? Am I experiencing, not fully because it's a lifetime journey, but am I experiencing a little bit of a deepening and sustaining of inner peace, balance, and wholeness? Thanks for being here. Together, let's experience and discover divine flow.